Hello, Virgo. Something is moving in your direction right now, and it's carrying both the financial shift you've been working toward and the emotional resolution you've been hoping for. These aren't separate arrivals, they're connected, woven together in ways that might not make sense until you're looking back at this moment from 6 months or a year in the future, and you can see how everything was actually part of the same current, the same wave of transformation that's been building beneath the surface of your visible life. You're standing at a convergence point where material abundance and relational clarity are preparing to arrive simultaneously. This isn't about magic or wishful thinking. This is about cycles completing, about energy that's been stuck finally finding movement, about investments you've made, both financial and emotional, finally reaching maturity, about seeds you planted months or years ago without knowing exactly what they'd grow into, finally breaking through the soil in forms you can actually see and touch and benefit from. And the timing of it, the way these two significant shifts are approaching together, it's creating a kind of momentum that feels almost overwhelming, almost too good to be true, almost like you need to brace yourself because receiving this much at once might reorganize everything you thought you understood about your life. Some of you might already be sensing this as a restlessness, an inability to settle, a feeling that you're on the verge of something, but you can't quite name what. Dreams that feel more vivid than usual, synchronicities that feel too specific to be random, thoughts of a particular person that won't leave you alone, ideas about money or opportunity that keep recurring with increasing insistence. There is a sense that the financial piece of this is substantial, not just a little extra, not just enough to ease immediate pressure, but enough to actually change your circumstances in meaningful ways, enough to create choices you don't currently have, enough to shift from survival mode into creation mode, enough to make you rethink what's possible for your life going forward. And that level of shift, that magnitude of change, it requires you to be ready, not just practically, but psychologically, to be able to receive without immediately sabotaging, to hold abundance without panicking about losing it, to let yourself have good things without waiting for the other shoe to drop. And maybe that's what these final days or weeks have been about, getting you ready, building your capacity, strengthening your ability to receive without collapsing under the weight of your own unworthiness or fear or disbelief. Because abundance arriving to someone who can't hold it doesn't help anyone. It just creates a brief moment of relief, followed by the familiar patterns that ensure scarcity returns. This reflection invites you to consider, if significant money arrived this week, what's the first fear that would arise, and what does that fear reveal about what still needs healing? It's possible the money comes through channels you've been working, a job offer with compensation that surprises you, a business deal that closes after months of negotiation, a client or customer who finally says yes to the proposal you've been refining, an investment that pays off, a project that finds unexpected commercial success, a settlement, an inheritance, a bonus, a commission, something that's been in process finally reaching completion in ways that exceed what you allowed yourself to hope for. And when that happens, when you see the actual number, when you realize this is real, and not just another almost opportunity that falls through at the last minute. Your first response might be shock, disbelief, the immediate questioning of whether there's been a mistake, whether it's actually yours, whether it will be taken away the moment you start to count on it. And all of that, all of those protective responses, they make sense given your history, but they're also exactly what you need to notice and release so the money can actually land and stay and compound rather than flowing through and disappearing. There's also something here about the call you've been waiting for, and this might be literal. An actual phone call or message or communication from someone specific, someone whose silence has been painful, someone you've been hoping would reach out, someone whose opinion or presence or acknowledgement matters more than you've wanted to admit, or it might be metaphorical. The answer to a question you've been asking, the resolution to uncertainty you've been sitting with, the clarity about a situation that's been ambiguous for too long. It can seem as if this communication, whatever form it takes, is going to shift something fundamental in how you understand a relationship or situation. Like you've been operating with partial information, and what's about to be revealed will complete the picture in ways that make everything else make sense, that explain behavior that seemed random or cruel or confusing, that show you motives and fears and contexts you couldn't see from where you were standing. Some of you might be waiting for someone to finally admit they love you, to finally drop their guard and be honest about what they feel, to finally acknowledge the connection you've been sensing but they've been denying. And if that's what's coming, if that honesty is finally approaching, it's going to arrive with its own kind of weight, its own complications. Because someone admitting they want you after months or years of acting like they don't, that changes things. It creates choices. It requires responses. It means you can't keep existing in the comfortable ambiguity of not knowing. You have to actually decide what you want and whether what they're offering matches it. And that decision, that clarity about whether to open the door when they finally knock, it might be harder than you imagine, because you've built a life around their absence. You've made peace with not having them. You've stopped waiting in some fundamental way, even if part of you still hopes. And now that hope might be about to be met. And meeting it means disruption, means reorganizing, means taking risks you've protected yourself from by assuming they'd never be available. This reflection invites you to consider if the person you've been waiting to hear from finally speaks. Are you still available for what they might say, or have you already moved on? There's something about readiness here that feels crucial, because opportunities, both financial and relational, they don't wait forever. They have windows. They present themselves when conditions are right. And if they're not seized, if they're not recognized and acted on, they move to someone else or they dissolve entirely. And you might be in a window right now where what you've been wanting is actually accessible, actually possible, actually trying to reach you, but only if you're awake enough to see it, brave enough to receive it, wise enough to recognize it when it arrives in forms that might not match exactly what you were expecting. Because we have very specific ideas about how good things should arrive, how money should come, how love should present itself, what messages should say. And when reality shows up wearing different clothes than we imagined, we sometimes miss it entirely. We're looking for the thing we pictured and we walk right past the thing that's actually here. It may feel as though you need to prepare for impact, like you're about to be hit by a wave of change and you need to brace yourself. And there's truth to that. Significant shifts, even positive ones, are destabilizing. They require adaptation. They demand that you become someone slightly different than who you've been, someone who has more resources, someone who's in relationship rather than waiting for relationship, someone whose external circumstances match their internal growth in ways they haven't matched before. And that becoming that transformation from who you were to who you need to be to hold what's arriving. It happens in real time. You don't get to prepare in advance. You just get to notice when you're being asked to stretch and choose whether to resist or allow it. Whether to contract back into familiar smallness or expand into the bigness that's trying to claim you. Some of you might receive multiple communications around the same time from different people, different opportunities, different possibilities, all presenting themselves simultaneously. And that convergence, that sudden abundance of options, after long periods of scarcity, it might feel overwhelming, might trigger analysis paralysis, might make you freeze because you're scared of choosing wrong and losing what you didn't choose. But here's what you need to understand. Abundance consciousness means trusting that choosing one good thing doesn't mean losing access to other good things. That saying yes here doesn't automatically mean closing doors everywhere else. That you can be discerning and selective without operating from scarcity that makes every choice feel life or death. This reflection invites you to consider, what would it mean to choose from abundance rather than scarcity? And how would your decisions be different? There's also something here about worthiness, about whether you believe at the deepest level that you're allowed to have good things, that you deserve financial abundance and reciprocated love simultaneously, that you don't have to trade one for the other, that you can actually have both, that your life can include both material comfort and emotional fulfillment without some cosmic law requiring you to sacrifice one for the other. It can seem as if you've been living under an assumption that you can have some good things, but not all good things. That life is about compromise and trade-offs and choosing which area gets to flourish while others remain stunted. And maybe what's about to happen will challenge that assumption. Will show you that actually, when you're aligned, when you're ready, when you've done the work, multiple areas of your life can thrive simultaneously. Wealth and love aren't mutually exclusive. Success and connection can coexist. You don't have to be lonely to be rich or broke to be loved. Some of you might need to hear this. When the money comes, when the call comes, your job isn't to understand why it took this long. Your job isn't to analyze every factor that had to align for this to be possible. Your job isn't to prove you deserve it or earn it or justify it. Your job is simply to receive it, to say thank you, to let it in, to allow your life to be reorganized around this new reality without immediately trying to make it go away through sabotage or unworthiness or fear of loss. Because we're really good at rejecting good things, at finding reasons why we can't have them, at discovering problems that make keeping them impossible, at creating drama that ensures the abundance doesn't stick around. And if that's your pattern, if receiving has historically been harder for you, then pursuing is less than #0, 5# is greater than, then this arrival of money and connection is going to test you, is going to ask if you've actually healed enough to hold what you've been asking for. It may feel as though timing is everything right now, like there's a particular moment when things click into place, and if you miss it, if you're not paying attention, the opportunity will pass. And there's some truth to that, but there's also grace, also multiple attempts, also the reality that if you miss this particular iteration, another will come. Maybe not immediately, maybe not in the exact same form, but the universe isn't playing gotcha with your blessings. It's not trying to trick you into missing what's meant for you. So yes, be alert, be present, be ready to recognize and act, but also trust that what's truly meant for you will find ways to make itself known, will persist, will show up repeatedly until you finally see it and receive it. Some of you might be wondering about the connection between the money and the person, why they're arriving together, and maybe it's just coincidence, maybe it's just timing, but maybe it's also about how emotional and material abundance often unlocks simultaneously, how feeling loved and supported opens us to receiving in all areas, how financial security gives us the groundedness to be vulnerable in relationships, how everything is actually connected even when we try to compartmentalize and keep different areas of life separate. It can seem as if healing in one domain creates healing in others, like breakthrough in relationship creates breakthrough in career, creates breakthrough in finances, creates breakthrough in health, because we're integrated beings living integrated lives, and pretending that what happens in one area doesn't affect others is just a convenient fiction we tell ourselves to avoid having to look at the whole mess at once. This reflection invites you to consider how might receiving in one area of your life create permission to receive in others. There's something about gratitude that feels important here, not performative gratitude, not spiritual bypassing where you pretend everything is fine when it's not, but genuine appreciation for what's arriving, for the journey that got you here, for the person you had to become to be ready for this, for the struggles that built the strength, for the disappointments that taught discernment, for all of it, even the parts that hurt, because without them, you wouldn't be positioned to receive what's coming. And that gratitude, that genuine appreciation, it's not just about being polite to the universe. It's about creating the internal state that allows abundance to compound. That makes you someone who can hold and grow resources rather than someone who receives and immediately loses them. Because gratitude is the opposite of grasping. And grasping, that desperate clutching energy, actually repels what we're trying to hold. It may feel as though you've been preparing for this your entire life. Like every experience, every choice, every challenge has been moving you toward this moment of convergence where money and love both arrive, and you're finally ready to receive them without destroying them through unworthiness or fear or self-sabotage. And maybe that's true. Maybe this is what all of it has been building toward, not as destiny, not as predetermined fate, but as the natural result of who you've been becoming and the choices you've been making and the healing you've been doing, even when it felt pointless or endless or like it would never actually change anything. It can seem as if Transformation has been happening in invisible ways, in ways you couldn't track or measure, in ways that didn't show up on any external scoreboard, but it was happening. You were changing, you were growing, you were becoming someone capable of holding bigger things. And now those bigger things are preparing to arrive and discover that yes, you can actually hold them. You're ready, you're worthy, you're equipped. So as these final days or hours unfold before money lands and communication arrives, stay present, stay open, stay alert to what's trying to reach you. Don't dismiss opportunities because they don't look exactly like what you pictured. Don't ignore messages because they come from unexpected sources. Don't reject abundance because some part of you still believes you're not allowed to have it. You are allowed, you're ready, and what's coming? The money, the call, the shift in your material and relational reality. It's not random. It's not luck. It's not undeserved. It's the harvest of seeds you've been planting. It's the return on investments you've been making. It's the manifestation of internal work finally showing up externally. It's yours, and it's time to let yourself have it. Stay grounded, stay grateful, stay brave enough to receive without immediately looking for ways it will be taken away, and trust that this convergence of abundance, it's just the beginning of what becomes possible when you finally let yourself have what you've been working toward all along. This reflection invites you to consider, when you look back on this moment a year from now, what will you be most grateful you had the courage to receive?